right now, the Jewish people in Israel today, you know who land that belongs to? You know who that land belongs to? It belongs to us. But the reason why they're fighting over it right now, because we have disobeyed God's commandments. God took that land from us and scattered it all across the world. So it's not until we learn to obey God's commandments and come back to His commandments that He gonna give us that land.
The show didn't stop. This spot is good enough to teach it to fly. We go to war for our people every time. Just cause we know it's done, we gotta watch. We hit the streets to bring in the strangers. Preach to the hood, we used to the danger. Whether it's sunny or we gotta bring them the word of the Lord. Hands coming by the mile away. War cry, got the block shaking. I ain't made it, but I fight daily. I don't want the Lord to...
Give me one of the reasons you heard. Right, so we built up the European infrastructure, which is true, correct? Big bro, right here in my old school, let me ask you a question. Why did black people go into slavery? Yeah, why did the Lord allow black people to go into slavery? For who? Disobedience to what? To His word. So as a people today, do we keep God's word? You go to church? Do the pastors in the church teach God's word? Do the pastors in the church teach God's word? They do or they don't? You said they do? You a pastor? You what? Pull up, I can't hear you. It's a vision, you know what I'm saying? Pull up a little bit. Give me Jeremiah 3:15. No, give me Deuteronomy 28:15. So you said that black people built up the European infrastructure, which is true. Now that's the cause of us. That's what happened after we got put in slavery. But we were never told, or it was never explained to us, because I was in public school, right? In public school, I did learn that black people were slaves. They went through all the history of slavery, right? But they never told us why these people were put in slavery. So we're going to read out of the Bible. And believe it or not, this is the same Bible that's on our dashboards. This is the same Bible that Grandma got on her nightstand. You know what I'm saying? This Bible has been around way before, over 2,000 years now, right? We're going to read out of this Bible why the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans went into slavery. And why this is important. Because one thing we understand about ourselves is that we are great people. The slavery that we went through, even today, we may not be thriving as a nation, but we still around. You know what I'm saying? When you look at black people in the sports industry, in the cooking industry, a lot of the traffic lights, cars, a lot of the things that are in America were created by us. We the salt of the earth. Without us, there would be no earth. Without us, there would be no European infrastructure because we built it. You agree? So let's find out why, as a nation of people, did the Lord allow us to go into slavery. Deuteronomy 28 verse 15.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15.
Do you know any Bible history at all? You familiar with Moses? What was Moses known for? Like, what was one of his great miracles, I would say? Leading the people out of Egypt. What people did he lead out of Egypt? He led, exactly, the people that you see on this sign right here. These are who the people that the Lord calls Hebrews or Israelites. So these are the people that Moses freed out of Egypt. I think it was like, what, 600,000? That he freed out of Egypt. Like 600,000 people he brought out of Egypt. And they all, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Manasseh. Today, we will be called African Americans, Jamaicans, Haitians, Puerto Ricans, Cubans. But these are the people that Moses freed from the Egyptians. What were we doing in Egypt? What were these people doing in Egypt? Why did he have to free them? They were slaves, right? He told Pharaoh, let my people go. So Moses freed the children of Israel from the hand of the Egyptians because the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. That's the history. So I'm glad you know that part, because this next part is going to be very important, right? So after he parted the Red Sea and they walked across, this is what Moses told those same people that we see on the sign right there. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. Verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations on the earth.
So the first thing that he told me, he said, look, if you listen to God and keep his commandments, I'm going to set you above all the nations upon the face of the earth. That was the first option he gave. Let's read the second option. Verse 15.
Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So the second ultimatum, he said, look, if you listen to God and keep his commandments, you're going to be blessed. If you disobey God and don't keep his commandments, you're going to be cursed. Let's see if we kept God's commandments and why we in the position that we in today. Let's see one of the things that happened for us breaking God's commandments. Verse 68. Because you agree that we were slaves, right? But it was never told us why we were slaves. So don't forget these two ultimatums. Keep God's commandments, you're going to be blessed. Break God's commandments, you're going to be cursed. Now we're going to read one of the curses that that Moses said will fall upon the Israelites if they didn't keep his commandments. Read that. You got a flyer? Somebody get a brother a flyer. I want you to read along with me. You know what I'm saying? This is very, very important. Because if we understand where we come from, then we can understand where we're going. You see what I'm saying? Verse 68, we're going to read it. I got it. That's what we're about to read out the Bible right now. Read that.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
With what?
With ships.
So Taki, how did the Israelites get out of Egypt the first time when Moses freed them? On foot. He parted the Red Sea and they walked across that sea, right? Read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
I got another question. We came out on foot, right? What were we doing in Egypt before we came out? You already said it. We were slaves, right? So read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So that word Egypt, we just gonna replace it with slavery. So the Lord is gonna bring thee into slavery again with what?
Ships.
How did we get to America? We came to America on ships. Now Egypt was so close to the promised land at that time that we walked out of Egypt. But this time he said these people are going to go into slavery with ships. Let's keep reading.
Again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
So Taki, when we got took from Africa to South America to North America by the way of ships, what happened when we got to South America and North America? What did they do to us? What did they do to us when they got us to this side of the world? They sold us. To who? What did the Lord call them? Our enemies. Exactly.
Right.
So when we got brought from Africa to South America, right over here you had the Europeans. Europeans run the whole damn world, right? But he said we was gonna be sold unto our enemies. Joel 3, because what you will get a lot of times when we ask people who sold black people into slavery, a lot of times they would say black people sold black people into slavery, which is partly true. But the distinction is that just because we have the same color skin does not mean we're the same people. Us and the Africans are two different race of people. We Shemites, we come from Shem. The Hamites come from Ham. Read that, Joel 3 and verse 2.
Book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 2. I will gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people.
It's Joel 3 on the flyer. think it is.
Book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 2. I will gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
So it's a lot of different nations upon the face of the earth. You got the Chinese, Japanese. It's on there? It is on there. I thought it was. At the bottom. All right, read it again for the brother. Follow. This is what we read that in the Bible. Read that.
Book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 2. I will gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
So, for God said he's going to gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. The valley of Jehoshaphat is judgment. That's the end date. And why is he going to bring these nations down to judgment? Read.
And will plead with them for my people.
And he said he's going to plead with these nations for his people. Now, we've been taught, I was taught in the Christian church, that Jesus Christ is coming to save all people. Is that true? It's not true, because God right here is identifying a specific people as his people. You know who that people is? That people is the same people that Moses delivered out of the land of Egypt. This is not taught in the churches. This is not taught in the world. Right now, the Jewish people in Israel today, you know who land that belongs to? You know who that land belongs to? It belongs to us. But the reason why they're fighting over it right now, because we have disobeyed God's commandments. God took that land from us and scattered us all across the world. So it's not until we learn to obey God's commandments and come back to his commandments is that he gonna give us that land back. Read it, keep reading.
And for my heritage, Israel, my heritage, Israel.
So right here, God is telling you who his people is and who his heritage is. His heritage is not all people. God did not come back to save all nations of people. He only coming back to save us.
That's right.
But what must we do in order to be saved? We got to follow his commandments. But how can we follow the commandments that we don't know? What's the job of a pastor? Give me Jeremiah 3:15. What's the job of a pastor? And believe it or not, the mentality that we have in the world today, that we feel like we can do what we want to do and still be saved, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from church. It's churches all over this place. Within this block, within this 1 mile radius, we got a church right here. You got a few churches down the street. The pastors are the reason that we had a mentality that we had today. We feel like we can do what we want to do and still make it to the kingdom of heaven. What are we really supposed to be doing? Jeremiah 3:15. What's the job of a pastor?
What is the nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family.